Operation Status Quo. Operation Status Quo. Prepare to engage. Operation Status Quo. Ready to engage. Operation Status Quo. Engaged. Engaged. Engaged once again, ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome to Operation Status Quo here on a beautiful Thursday, the 25th of May in the good year 2023. Has it been a good year for you so far? I think it's been a pretty good year overall. I have no relative complaints about it. But anyway, welcome to Operation Status Quo. I am Pete Palma, of course. This is Operation Status Quo, where we observe the status quo of life. We learn to flow with the status quo of life. And then, of course, we create our own flow of quo-yo, because that's the only way to go. So I'm very happy once again to have the official, as I like to say, the official health and wellness guru of Operation Status Quo. It's our good friend Michael Palma of Personalized Wellness Solutions. And there, look at that smile. Look at that smile. How can you not be? We should end the show right here. Hey-o. We got the smile, and that's the vibe. See that positive vibe? He's healing you right now with that big smile. Just look at it and feel the healing energy. Mike, I'm sorry. You know, I'm a little ramped up. But seriously, it's great to have you back. We've been having some conversations over the past few weeks, different aspects of health and wellness, and looking at different things to help people just see life in a different way. That's what we do here on Operation Status Quo. We just observe things, and we kind of just figure out what's going on in the world and learn how to mitigate certain circumstances so that we can, be our best selves, whatever that means for each of us as individuals. And today we have a great topic talking about the influence of advertising on our food choices, which is really, I find it really fascinating just to say from the beginning, just when you think about everything that's out there as far as what we think of as food and how much of it is more of the packaging and the commercials compared to the content when, natural food is just like growing out of the ground and stuff. But so I'm really interested to have this conversation about how advertising plays such a role in how we make our choices with what we eat.
Yeah, I think it's an important topic, Pete, because I think a lot of times we think we're in control of our lives and that we're making conscious decisions on behalf of ourselves and that we're fully in control. But I would suggest, and I might debate with people, that we're not as much in control as we think we are. And I would say that a lot of our food choices are actually based off of conscious programming that's done through media and advertising. Right. And I would like to say that if people aren't aware of that influence, I think over time it really has an impact on their health. And I can even speak from personal example, because I remember when I was around 16 or 17, we grew up in a family where we ate all organic, basically organic food, fresh food every day. We would eat some vegetables, a lean protein, and some form of a carbohydrate. So we were always eating that way. But I could remember when I was younger, especially like say 12 to 16, where I was watching a lot of I'd say shows based off of like cartoons and things based maybe more for like kids based,
right.
or those type of advertising.
Yes.
And I would see with that I could remember specifically like for example, my grandmother wanted me to eat real potatoes, but I wanted to eat potato buds.
Right. I remember the potato buds. Yeah.
Right, because I would see potato buds on advertising all the time. And I wanted the potato buds, or I would start eating lean pockets, was a big thing with the microwave, or right. I was eating a lot of the pizzas that you would get off the ads. So these are like things that I was seeing on TV all the time, and they really influenced my choices. And, I really look back on it now, and I realized I had to be honest with myself, because when I wanted to start to lose weight and get into the health journey, I had to be honest with myself, because, I just one day decided, I wanted to change my life and eat clean and do the right things. But it was actually a lot harder than I thought it would be. And I found that to be very fascinating. And I found that there was a place in my brain that even though I knew what to do or wanted to do, I wasn't maybe as willing, or I was having a lot of resistance to doing that. So I had to be really honest with myself and notice, wow, I have to actually unprogram myself. And right. I really specifically remember thinking that in my brain on some level. So, I think other people struggle with the same thing. And I think if we were more honest with ourselves, we would all realize that the influence of media and advertising on us is more impactful than we would like to admit.
Yeah, and the crazy part about it too is it's so much more than just like they're making a commercial to try to sell something or influence a certain demographic or whatever the case may be. And in conjunction with that, the product that they're making on top of it, is really doesn't have any. Most, I won't say not everything, but most of that type of stuff, as we know, processed foods is like minimal nutritional value overall. And when you think about, and I know when we talk about all these subjects, they always kind of overlap a little bit. When you think about talking about being programmed and such, like who's people know, right? I mean, like the company that makes Doritos or Oreos, they know what they're putting in that product, and yet they hardcore sell it to you. I was telling you earlier that like Coca-Cola, for example, like even though I don't drink soda anymore, in my heart, it's still like one of my favorite products just because of how it made me feel with the ad campaigns back in those days, the late 70s, early 80s.
Exactly. And that's the thing that's so fascinating, because once it's in your brain or in your subconscious programming, especially, for younger children, that's what I'm really passionate about, is in making sure that parents understand the impact, not only on them, but really on their children, because their children don't have the ability to distinguish as much as we do. And you're right. That's what they do. They're into psychology. They hire people who are who have degrees in psychology, and everything they do is on purpose. Nothing is by accident. They spend billions and billions of dollars to make sure that they persuade people to get what they want. So they know exactly what they're doing and why they're doing it, and they're not concerned about your health or your nutrition. They already know that these things are unhealthy for you, but their concern is about money. And so that's just the bottom line about that.
Yep.
And people need to be aware of their motives and what they are, and whether it's good or bad. That's a different philosophical topic. But it's important to understand what their motives are. Their motives are not to make you happy. When they show people drinking alcohol, for example, they'll always show a 20-year-old, 20 to 30-year-old, somebody who's very good looking, usually in a bikini or on the beach or having fun at a party. But we all know people who drink and have issues that are far less looking like that, and the real reality of that is not that, right? So it's everything is made to make you feel good, because through psychology we already know that people will always be influenced by positive psychology, positive influences. Everybody wants to feel good and be happy, so anything that draws them into that. So for example, like you said, with Coke or anything, it's always this big happy thing. If you go to Disneyland, for example, it's always about eating some type of candy or something of that nature, right? You don't go to Disneyland and go in there and eat a big salad most of the time, right? I mean, all the choices are something that's going to hurt you and your child.
Right.
And so it's all intertwined, right? All these companies, they all intertwine to work together to manipulate people so that they can make money.
I think the hard part about it, in a sense, is like, so our grandmother always said everything in moderation, right? So, and part of it is like, for example, like, I don't eat fast food anymore, but I always loved McDonald's, and like if I think about it, it still clicks in my brain from time to time, like, oh, let's go get a Big Mac, you know what I mean? Like, but I know, like, I'm not going to eat a Big Mac, but even though I still really want it, and then like you think, oh, okay, well, it's not so good for you, but if you treat yourself once in a while through this or that. And I get that, right? And like I think there should be a balance in some regard. To me, I find more of the issue is that like how these products, so many of them, are created, and they're so detrimental in the ingredients that they have. And I don't know, I just feel like a lack of responsibility in certain regard from some of these companies that, I'm just saying, right? Like I get about making a buck, and you have a business and you have an idea and your shareholders and all that. But, I just feel a lot of times these bigger businesses, which I know it's part of what we talk about here on Operation Status Quo, just, observing the world and really knowing like who's your friend, who's not your friend. I just kind of feel it'd be nice to see them take a little more stock in telling people, hey, listen, these are Doritos. You can basically use them to start a campfire, like you can, or in the corn chips, like you can burn them. I've seen that on Survivor videos where they'll like burn the corn chip to have like a fire anyway, but with the ingredients that are in them. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people who are running these companies, they're not morally, let's say, high on the level of, that's not high on their, bucket list,
right.
so to speak. And unfortunately that's just, there's many people in the world, there's many influences in the world, and whether you want to say good or bad, but unfortunately these people know exactly what they're doing and what, and the effects it has on their children and on other people, and unfortunately they choose their God to be money,
Right.
and money
Yep.
is the number one God, and they're concerned more about their own ego and power and how it's going to affect them and their bottom line and their way of life. What we do here is we give out free information because we're more concerned to help others. We feel that spiritual path, but some people don't feel that, and a lot of times what they'll do is they lie to us so that they, and making it sound like, how many times do these companies give like philanthropy, give back, in a way to help people, but really it's for their own needs. It's not for, it's not really to help people. It's just kind of under the guise of that.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so we see that many of a time because, anyone who is using like Coca-Cola or McDonald's, and then they give back for like diabetes or some food choices, they don't really care about that, because if they did, they wouldn't be selling those products to begin with.
Right.
So unfortunately, that's what really goes on in our culture, and we need to take our power back, and we need to deprogram ourselves, and we need to take personal responsibility. And now that we know that this is true and this is happening, we need to then become responsible for our own food choices. And like you said, these programs still play, and they never go away. Once they're in your brain, they stay in your brain. So you don't have to act on them, but they will pop up. If you're someone who has smoked cigarettes for a long time and you stop smoking, just because you stop smoking, years later, you're still going to want a cigarette every once in a while. That's just the way it works. That's how conditioning of the brain works. So if you've had four bad food choices your whole life and you start to eat well, you're still going to want to go back the other way. For example, I encourage people just to eat 80% raw vegetables or live foods, for example. And when I say that to the average client that I'm with, they look at me like I have 10 heads, or I'm asking them to do some crazy thing, because they're so conditioned to eat some fast food or some processed food or something, they feel like they're missing out, like you said. And you said everything in moderation, but I would just challenge that and say that, we can switch anything from a processed food to a real food and make it just as healthy. I make a great smoothie every day where I put organic coconut milk, and I put honey, and I put, frozen cherries or blueberries, a banana. I put some oats in there, and an avocado, and I would challenge that to any milkshake or anything you get from any, processed food, McDonald's, anywhere you go. And I would say it tastes just as good, if not better, and you're really healing your body. So, the idea is the food choices we make are either going to heal us or kill us. And, everything in moderation is true. If you want to go that route, I'll never tell anyone what to do, but I would also suggest that you can really change any food you want and have it in a healthy way, and you're not really missing anything. I think that's the other thing with marketing. We feel like we're missing out on something, but we're really not missing out on anything. And if anything, we're depriving ourselves of what we were designed to have naturally anyway.
Right. That's the whole purpose of the advertising to begin with, and the campaigns that they create. I think a great example currently and over the past couple years or so has been Taco Bell. Those commercials are on relentlessly, and just little things. They don't even have to sometimes when I'm watching YouTube videos, and the ads pop up, they don't even say anything. I can just hear it in the background, or whatever music, and then they do that ding, the Taco Bell, that bell at the end, that whatever they do, and it's just like, and you just know when you, it's like I'm saying that bell is like, it's almost like Pavlov's dogs, we talk about that kind of thing. You hear that bell's like, make a run for the border. They say all that stuff, and it's all, just boom, boom, boom. And to speak on what you were saying about the people who are in charge of this stuff, who really don't have such a moral compass in certain ways, that's what takes it back to the responsibility of the individual. And I will challenge myself in regards to the everything in moderation. I say that more of the terms of, just trying to get people to look at it, everything in a different way. But when we're eating those products, whether it be whatever, the manufacturing that goes into creating all the plastics to put the Doritos in, the bags, all the whatever dyes and colors and, all this stuff, all the depletion of the earth to make a factory, to make a food that doesn't even provide any nutrients. So it is up to us to I guess let manufacturers know that this is not what we want. This is not what's good for the people.
Yeah, and also look at how they make it. Where look in our culture, it's cheaper to buy like Coca-Cola. It's cheaper to buy processed foods than it is to buy real organic foods, right? So, I mean, if you're someone like myself, or you know, we might go to Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or these higher end stores where they have antibiotic, they eat grass, and these animals are treated properly for protein, or they eat quality food, for example, and it's more expensive. And if you're someone who can't afford it, that's a real issue. But yet you can always go into McDonald's and get, two burgers for $4, which aren't even burgers really, and it's not even meat, and it's all just processed chemicals that you're taking in. But why do we do that as a government? Why would our government do that? I mean, that's something to think about. Why wouldn't they subsidize for us to eat healthy foods? Instead, they subsidize us to eat unhealthy food. I recently put in my book where they at Lunchables. I don't know if you ever know what Lunchables are, but Lunchables are processed basically food. It's just like, and they serve them to kids as advertising. So if they say they have like cheese or salami or crackers or whatever's in it, like sometimes they have pizzas as an example, but it's all processed. There's no nutrition in it. And what they did is they just passed a law so that they can put them into the middle schools and for young children to have as part of their lunch programs, and it's subsidized by our government. And you'd have to ask yourself, why is our government giving our children that kind of food, and what lobbying is going on and who's really in charge, right? Because I recently watched an episode a while ago where in France, for example, they make fresh soups and they eat fresh foods for their kids in school. And, I looked at their meal and I was jealous, of what they were eating. And, right? I'm like, I got to go back to middle school in French and in France, right?
It's not like the pork roll that we used to get.
No, and that's when I went to school. I went to a good school in a good area, and even in high school, I mean, they had the salad bar, but there was always these options for pretzels with cheese, and there was Domino's Pizza, and there was Taco Bell, and even the food that you pay for the lunch where you pay $4 or $5, and it was Taco Tuesday or whatever it was for that day. I remember one time specifically looking at the boxes of the meat, and it had said grade E but edible. So I mean, that's what you're feeding to our children, grade E but edible, right?
Yeah.
So and then we want our children to go back in class and we don't know whether they're not focused or performing well, right? I mean, it's kind of crazy. We live in this inverted way of life and living, and everything is about money, power, and control. And it's really just unfortunate because it's really not about the citizens, and it's not about, helping people. It's about corporations making more money. And that's the sad, hard truth about America. We've kind of been bought and paid for a long time ago. And I don't think a lot of us really want to realize that, or we're too busy, or, to see these influences. But our children are paying the ultimate price, because if you look at obesity, it just keeps rising and rising. And then what happens is these children have bad habits. And then when they turn 18, 20, 25, they have to restart a whole new way of living. And it's much harder to do that. It's just like learning the language, for example. If you learn a language when you're really young, you pick it up very quickly. But if you try to pick up a language at 18 or 20 or 25, not that you can't do it, but it's a lot more challenging because the brain doesn't easily pick up the same pathways.
Right. Yeah. This kind of, what we're talking about today kind of piggybacks off of yesterday. My show was titled America the Commercial, because I was just basically kind of talking about in general how America is not really, has never been what, the image of what we have it to be. The image was created, to slowly, program the people in a sense. Back, I talk about our grandparents' generation, the World War II generation, coming off that war, and everybody was idealistic about the country, hardworking, instilled blah blah blah, and the people living that way, were doing that, but that was just for the show, for them to be able to get the people to believe in America as a product more so than what it really is. And over time, they keep changing, they modify the program, as it were, until you get to the generation where we are today, when you see kids coming up. And I said this yesterday, it's not like their fault. I don't even blame the younger people in a sense we all take responsibility for ourselves at some point, but in general, if you're starting from day one with, we were raised by people who were raised by people from like the 1800s, it's a whole nother way compared to somebody who's coming up today in a whole new world, and they don't even understand what work ethic is and not that they don't have it, but, they've been conditioned they don't want people to have work ethic, and they don't want people to have clear minds. That's why they're making all this food, right? They poison the kids young with this type of thing. Then they got the pharmaceutical companies sitting there waiting for you to get on the medicine by the time you're in your 20s or 30s,
Yeah, it goes into the medical system, and it's through all our systems in our government. And unfortunately, it's not just our government; it's many governments that are all unfortunately a part of this. And that's why, if we want real change, it needs to start at the community level, and it needs to start with each individual and each parent, and each person needs to take personal responsibility. And it's a hard thing to do because we're really busy and we're constantly moving, and we have jobs and other responsibilities, and we all want the quick fix and the quick easy thing. But unfortunately, that's not the way life works, and that's not the way the body was designed. So we need to reclaim our power. It's very interesting. Just look at commercials, for example. How many times have you ever seen a commercial for broccoli?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever
Right.
have.
No, right. And one of the things I learned in advertising when I was in school as a part of one of my classes was so fascinating is how much money is spent on, and I also just put this in my book that I wrote recently. I have a whole chapter on this, is how much money is spent on marketing for processed foods, and how much money is spent on wellness or, health foods like broccoli or vegetables. And if you look at it, I don't have the statistics in front of me, but I do in my book, it's less than 1% is spent on, vegetables or any good food choices, and 99.9 is all spent on, processed foods, and we can see that anytime we watch a sporting event like the Super Bowl, or any major show that comes on, like a Hollywood show, like a Grammy Award or something. You'll see all the commercials are all geared towards fast food and unhealthy behaviors.
Yeah, absolutely. I can think back to when I was in my, especially like my high school days. I mean, every day it was a big bowl of cereal, whichever sugary junk it was, Fruit Loops or Captain Crunch, or something like that, and then and a bagel. I would eat a bagel every day too. So and orange juice, right? So you got all the sugar of that orange juice, plus enriched flour and all that junk in the bagel, and then the cereal on top of it. I'm like. And I just think like that was like every day that, I was, and now to a point where, I don't even have breakfast per se. I drink my salts in the morning and, that type of stuff.
And a fasting is what you're saying. And that's what I'm saying. There's so many different techniques and things that are out there. And it's unfortunate that as a culture, we don't even know it. And if you are someone who does try to really look out for their health, you're almost labeled as, a health nut, or, we have these labels because, like we said, and I know we've talked about this in other podcasts, but anytime you go into a corporate where you work at a corporate job, I mean, no one's bringing in a salad for lunch, or is for as a meeting, or for example, it's always going to be a pretzel, or it's always going to be some fast, something that's not good for us, right?
Right.
Like, why is that? Why wouldn't they bring in something that's nutritious for us? It's just interesting to think about, and why is that the default mode? But it is the default mode, and parents do it all the time when they have their kids. They'll have a pizza party, anything quick and easy. And but unfortunately, these things are not what our body requires when we just look at the scientific point of view. I mean, we all know our body needs minerals and vitamins and nutrients. And if you're eating a pizza every day or these processed foods, you're not getting any of those nutrients. And so, and then also in conjunction, as we said, they are poison. I mean, I know in my book also that I wrote was how Skittles was actually sued for having a type of chemical in it just for the coating that they have on their, that's how they're so bright, for example, the coating on candy, and you look at it, you always see it's like fluorescent green or purple or whatever color. I mean, that's not naturally there. So to stabilize these, they put chemicals in there, and then these chemicals on top of already the poisons in the air and the food and the water and and the fabrics we have and everything else, in our housing, it just all adds up. And then that's why by 50 or 60, the average person, is not feeling well, has cancer, autoimmune disease, inflammation, muddle thinking. All these things are directly related because of our environment and how we're slowly being poisoned. And it's really important to understand how advertising is making us think the opposite. All these things are good for us, and they're turning something that's a negative and a poison into a positive. And that's what I'm trying to say, make this whole podcast about, is the power of advertising, how we could turn something that's so harmful for us and make us on an unconscious level want to take it.
Right. And then on top of it, call people who are doing something different fanatical, basically. Like when I had my friend Crystal on earlier in the week talking about her journey to being living a holistically, plant-based or whatever life that she's doing, the vegan thing, and she says to her same thing. People say, "Oh, you're a fanatic," and I mean, it's like kind of crazy to think that like people who are whatever path you choose, it doesn't have to be veganism, whatever. But at the end of the day, like people who don't want to eat junk, like they're a fanatic. And even when I used to work in the office back in the day, I had the one guy there. I know you know I'm talking about, but he would come in with the donuts all the time, and he would be like. He would like, bust my chops because I don't want to eat a donut. He goes, "Oh, come on, you got blah, blah, blah." He give me, "Oh, what's the matter? This is not alkaline." Bust my chops and all. I'm like, I don't understand the problem. Like, why you're making fun of me? That's how I look at it. Is you're attacking me because like in your mind that you wish you had the power to, give yourself the power to make the choices. It's all social. Not only is it the influence of they're programming our brains with the advertisement, then it becomes like the social bond of it too, right? Like we all get together and it's Friday night, it's pizza night, right? So we get all the crap from Domino's, like you said, or whatever, and you feel like you're building a bond with people through that, and that's almost even worse than programming us to to eat foods that are really negative for us. Almost on top of that, that the advertisers do, is building the social bond around it. Again, going back to my example with Coca-Cola, is like you just feel like it's a family thing to sit down and drink a Coca-Cola.
Yeah, once again, that's advertising. They
Yep.
know the power of that, and they know that we're social creatures, and that we want to be bonded and all, and so they know exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it, and they know exactly what button to press to influence us. So that's why through this podcast and through this information, hopefully people will be more aware, and they'll start critically thinking for themselves, and hopefully they'll slowly take back their power and make their own decisions in life. Because it's like you said earlier, unfortunately, a Friday night is going to Uno's or to like a Fridays and having some drinks and having some processed foods, and then in the morning we all wake up. We've all been there. I've done it myself, and we wake up the next day on a Saturday and we kind of feel tired and run down. And do we really want to go to the gym or do something? We kind of just have this lull feeling because we just poisoned our body, right? So it makes no sense in a way, but that's what we've all been programmed to believe, that that's fun, and if you don't do that, you're missing out on something. And unfortunately, that's not the truth. And people need to take back their power and decide where do they want to spend their time and energy, and who do they want to hang out with also, right? Because that's influence on it. But that's for another topic. But just about the advertising, it's just important to realize that every time we watch TV or we watch these programs, or if we see a billboard, or with just even on clothes, when people wear clothes of Coca-Cola, it's around so much. It's basis. It's in if you go to Disneyland, it's all part of the marketing. If you go see a movie, look, before you go to a movie, what's the first thing that pops up? You got the Coca-Cola guy coming, a bottle running across the screen with the popcorn, and gosh darn it, if you don't have some popcorn and soda when you watch a movie, the movie isn't the same, right? Right. So, like we've all been conditioned. I know myself. I go and I don't have popcorn, I feel like, oh, I'm missing out, right? But I don't really need the popcorn. And I'm not saying eat the popcorn, don't eat. It's not the issue. But
right, I know. Yeah.
It's just part of the issue is like, I'm so programmed already to have all that stuff before I go that like I can't even, on some level, sometimes, you think you can't even enjoy a movie with just watching a movie.
No, I know I don't want to drink anything while I'm watching a movie, because the last thing I need to do is have to go up and go to the bathroom while I'm trying to get through a 2.5. We used to go see some of those movies. They were close to remember some of those action movies are almost like 3 hours long. Some of them. It's like, listen, I don't want the soda because I don't want to miss any of the movie. But and by the way, just to mention, I remembered the last time we were talking about exercise. I believe it was Exercise is Medicine, that episode, when you were talking about the one commercial you saw for the woman dancing with the mailman. That was for I saw it the other day. Jardiance. I think it's Jardiance. It was for your AC1. Diabetes. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
talked about how if you just walk, glucose goes into the cell. Exactly. And that just goes to show you how everything is about this quick fix. And, everything's about, in advertising, it's about a quick fix. You're not responsible, and just give us your money and we'll take care of everything. Yeah. And just quietly go into the background. Don't critically think. Don't take responsibility for your life. We'll do it all for you. Don't worry about it. Just give us all over the dollar. Yeah. Right. And unfortunately, that's the reality that we all live in, because, life is multifaceted and it's multi-layered, and there is no quick fix, and there is no just go. Anyone who's been sick and has a complex disease and goes to the doctor, they know, it's not just, there is just no one pill to fix you. And then they find that out, and then it's too late, in a sense that they have no habits that they've developed, Right. And easy to go around with the crowd and do what everyone does, but when you do what everyone does, you get what everyone gets, right? Yeah. So.
And they got everybody believing that it's just the way it is. Like, we can do when you get older, you have to get on these medicines, and it's just what happens. Well, that's what happens if you eat that stuff, right? So,
you look at like Jack LaLanne, for example, who was, a great, a health and wellness guru before health and wellness gurus are around, right? He grew up eating processed foods and donuts, he had said, and then one time he went to a lecture where, he wasn't feeling well, and he never, was a scrawny kid and had diseases, and he went to a lecture where they were juicing, and he turned his life around at a young age where he started to juice every day and exercise, and he lived to a ripe old, into his 90s, into a great health, and he turned it around, took personal responsibility. But even back then, when he was around, which was probably in the early 1940s, 50s, and 60s, that this kind of philosophies were still just starting to take hold, and they were trying to poison us. I mean, you could look at just even cigarettes, for example. I mean, look at the power of marketing on cigarettes. I mean, you could, any movie, I mean, everyone smoked. You don't see it as much now, but there's product placement, and and so people, that was just commonplace then, right? And you can also see product placement just every time you watch a movie. I mean, anytime you always see something for like a Heineken, I know, or alcoholic drink, or you'll see something for some type of like fast food, McDonald's, Taco Bell, it's always in all, because they actually pay for that. So any movie that goes out, they pay to have their product placed in there. Mm-hmm. So product placement, which they do in movies. So, it just goes to show you, these people, they think of everything. They're very smart, very calculating, and to think that they're out to help you. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, as people who are consumers, we should be angry about this, and we should take back where we place our money. And I think that's the main message is, instead of just going along to get along, we should really start to challenge this and get angry that people are doing this to us, and take our power back.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is fun, it's fun, because it's fun to have the soda, it's fun to do this, it's fun to do that. But I would challenge it and say, I would get angry and say, look what these people are doing to my family and to my child, my children, and to my community. And I want to not in any angry way in the sense of violence, but because of my choices and how I spend my money, take back my power.
Yeah. And just like when you were speaking earlier about like the lobbyists or whatever, how these Lunchables getting into the schools and that type of thing, how long did it take before they really admitted that smoking was bad, right? They kept saying smoking wasn't bad for you, and went on it didn't come out till the 80s or something where they finally admitted, and then had to put a message. I mean, obviously, right? But I mean, it's just, it should be the same kind of warning label on those foods you see on cigarettes.
Exactly. And I think it will one day. And these individuals already know, like, even for pharmaceuticals, for example, like anytime they make a drug, they already have a certain money set aside for how much they're going to have to pay out in court fees. They already know that. So they just calculate that into there, and they say, all right, well, this billion goes here, but we'll come out with another 100 billion. So to them, just pocket change. And it's the same thing with, marketing when it comes to McDonald's or anything else. You know what I mean? They act like, they're trying to help you. Oh, we put a salad on the menu, you know what I mean? But in reality, what is a salad when you're eating fries? I mean, if you ever looked at a McDonald's fries and you left it out for a year, on your refrigerator or anywhere, like on your car, and you have an accidental fry left there, in a year's time, that fry will look the same exact way. It will have not decayed. But if you put an apple or a banana out in 3 days, that thing will have decayed. Why is that? Because it's not even food. It's Frankenstein. It's chemical. Even real food, like that's the thing. And I think it's really important to understand that you're not even eating food, you're eating chemically based products that have been made in a lab.
Yeah, bioengineered specifically, right?
Yes, And they make sure that it hits on certain receptors in your brain, especially when it comes to salt and the taste of it and fat and these chemicals. They make sure that it lights up your brain like heroin or cocaine or any other drug does. So they know exactly what they're doing, and they know how to influence people, and they spend a lot of money to do that. And it's important to understand this and to reclaim our health and our power. And when you go through this process, you almost have to not only decondition your mind but decondition your body, because when you're so used to eating processed foods, for example, and then you go back and eat like an apple or a pepper, you can't even compare. I mean, when you're eating these sugary foods, and then your palate almost has to take a couple of days just to even revert back to appreciating the subtlety of what you're eating.
Right. I know I read something too one time, or I forgot where I heard it, that the amount of sugar that's in like a Coca-Cola basically would naturally make a person vomit from drinking it. But whatever they put in it, they put something in it to kind of dull the receptors of the amount of sugar. I mean, one can of Coke is 42 grams of sugar or some kind of crazy amount. And I don't know, if I'm misspeaking, you can tell me, but something I heard that, with the amount that's in there, if drinking it, if they didn't have whatever they put in it to offset, people wouldn't even be able to drink it.
Yeah, I mean, just look at, for example, what you're saying is Super Size Me is a very classic documentary, and the gentleman ate just McDonald's food for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a month, and he got all his vital signs and all his numbers and nutrition levels, went to a doctor, and he had them analyzed. And within, it was only I think 2 or 3 weeks in, he went back to the doctor, and the doctor said his levels were so outrageous that he told him he has to stop. He didn't even want to finish the project of eating it for a month.
Right.
So I looked at how much this person's numbering. This person went from he gained 20-30 pounds. He felt horrible. He said he was addicted to the food, in the sense that he would have, to eat the food, he would get these great rushes of if you take a drug, he would feel crappy, and then he would have to have the food again to get the rush up. So I mean, in essence, it's just like having a heroin or any other drug. I mean, that's the way they're made. It gives you this big increase of feeling good, and then you crash, and then you come back down. So I mean, it's really scary when you think about it. And to your point, also, when he would eat one of the meals, when he first started eating this way, at the time they were supersizing it. So it's if they would ask him to supersize it, he would supersize it. So the gentleman said, "You want me to supersize it?" Of course, right? So when he had the large Coca-Cola or Pepsi, whatever it is, in the supersize, and he had the fries and he had the burger, he could barely finish it. And afterwards, and if you watch the documentary, you'll see him, he throws up actually.
Right.
Just your point, because his body couldn't even handle all of the food and the chemicals, and and why does your body throw up? I mean, we all know if we drank too much, what happens do? We go vomit, because it's a defense mechanism. Your body's trying to get rid of that poison so quickly. No, that it uses that form to do that. So I mean, it's your body, it's like your conscious mind is like, oh, I want this. And on an innate, unconscious, left cellular level, your body's like, no, I don't care what you're doing. We're getting this food out of us.
Yeah, right. Please, you're killing me.
He actually threw up. So I mean, it's a great documentary, and I encourage anyone to watch that. It's Super Size Me, and I know you can get a free on YouTube, and I think it should be in all our schools and education. I mean, if that's not an eye opener, I mean, with less than 3 weeks of eating processed foods, his numbers went from perfect to, I mean, almost literally where the doctor said, you need to stop or this will kill you. Yes. And this was documented. So that's what we give to our children. And like I said, they go up and down with, anyone knows who gives their kid a sugary foods or candy or any of that, how hyper they get, and they run around and they crash. I mean, we've all seen those kind of things.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
So, it's all in front of us. It's all obvious. We just have to make those hard choices not to, it's easy to conform, and it's easy to give into our kids because they've been programmed, and if you're at the store and they're begging for Twix, or they're begging for, Count Chocula or any other fun.
Maybe a nice Reese cup. I do like the Reese's.
Reese cup. Right. And even interesting, like I go to Trader Joe's, and they have an alternate form of that where they use sunflower, flour oil, butter. It's
Yes.
called.
Yep. Even with cashew, I've seen them with made with cashews. Yep.
Exactly. And then they use organic dark chocolate. So
Yep.
that's what I'm trying to say. I mean, you can take your own fruit, like a banana or grapes or any fruit you like, and you can heat up some dark chocolate and put it in the refrigerator and enjoy it. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's not that you're missing out. It's just you're taking personal responsibility for your health, and you're taking the time to make your own foods and know where they come from, and only you will benefit from it. Like I said, they want to make it easy and make it where you don't just go and buy our foods. It's quick, it's easy, less time. But in reality, your health will suffer, and it's not going to be convenient in the long run.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Mike, I think this has been a great discussion and a little bit of trying to provide a little bit of awareness to the beautiful people out there. I'm sure people in general, I know we know, but do we really know? Like, do we really, and how much do we take that? I mean, don't just let it slide that you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you do know. So make other choices. We don't, and I say this about everything, not just with the food, everything in the way our world is going. We don't have to be, slaves to a system and to masters or whatever, powers that be that want to try to manipulate us to fit in their little, groove. We're all, divine expressions of oneness, and we all have a lot to offer and share, and to be our, it's important. I think it's really almost like it is personal responsibility. It's to be the best that you can be, because we're here as a group, as a society. We all have gifts to share and to help each other, and it only helps you. It only helps everyone if you help yourself, right? I mean, it helps us all.
Yeah, and I would challenge everyone that's listening to say that if you are not doing what we just talked about, taking personal responsibility or eating these healthy foods, that you are programmed. And I would challenge that if you said you're not, that I would say you are. And I know that's sometimes hard to look at. It's hard to look at ourselves and take personal responsibility and to admit that we're weak in some areas. But I would challenge you because like you said, if you know to do it and you don't do it, you don't really know. I mean,
Right.
I work thousands of people, and everybody says they know. Every time I'm with them, they know, but they don't do. And so, I don't understand what they're saying to me. It's
Right.
like, what do you know if you're not doing it? You know what I mean? So
Yep.
I would challenge everyone and say that, actions speak a lot more than words. And if you're not doing these behaviors, then, you might have to really think about what you really know and challenge your own belief systems and your actions and become actionable, because, good results only happen when you actually do something about it. That's the one thing I love about my field. You can't BS your way around it. There's no BS. You either exercise or you don't. You move or you don't. You either think good thoughts or you don't. You either eat real good food or you don't. You can talk all you want. You can use all the fancy words, but you can't get your way out of this one. You either do it or you don't. It doesn't matter how much money you have or how much influence you have. You either make these choices or you don't. And they're very concrete. And I think everyone needs to really look at themselves and decide, am I doing that? And I think that's very important, like you said, because it's easy just to let it slide and say, oh, I know, and blah blah blah, and then 2 weeks later you're back into old patterns, and so that really shows you don't know.
And the truth is, the proof, but to me, like, the proof is in the pudding. Like, when people bust my chops about certain things, I think, okay, well, like, we're the same age, and like, I'm not trying to think. I don't think I'm like, the best. I could be better too in other ways, but I'm saying, like, I'm vibrant and healthy and feel great, and I'm not getting sick, and all these type of different things. I don't need to go to the doctor every 20 minutes, so I just trying to say, like, laugh, put it down, say somebody's a fanatic, laugh at it, or all that type of stuff. It's like, okay, but like, you're just getting mad at me because you're not where you want to be, and I'm just trying to share information to say, like, you can get there. You just got to take responsibility, like everything you just said.
Yeah, people naturally will always ridicule things that that they can't do themselves, or that they're not taking personal responsibility for. I mean, that's human nature. That's a self-defense mechanism, and so that's a whole other issue. And people have to look within themselves to see what they're doing. But I would just challenge everyone to really take personal responsibility for their health and their wellness, because ultimately you're the only one who can do it. And if you make small little actionable steps over a year or 2 years time, you'll be a whole new person. It's not that easy, trust me. Once we all think it's easy, but it's just like quitting smoking. There's going to be become challenges, our emotions come up, things come up in our lives, and we revert back to old behaviors. So to really be conscious and stay in the moment and do the right things when bad things happen in our life, which they will happen for all of us, because surprises happen every day. And how do you handle those responses? I mean, that's what really separates, the people who want to change to who don't want to change. And, anytime we blame others or make fun of others, that's just because we don't want to take personal responsibility for ourselves.
Yep. And just to finish, I'll just say that I, like to say if one way I think to stay motivated is, if you become an active viewer, a critical thinking, use critical thinking while you're watching these commercials for these different food products, and really think about what it is and how they're selling it to you, what the image they're creating, and think about how that, if you can give that space to look at it that way, I think it'll empower you and make you feel, you know what, I'm not going to let these people, walk all over me. It's, like you said, you can always substitute something for something. It takes time, but I mean, I don't never feel like I'm missing anything. I eat, I enjoy everything I eat. It's like, even that one guy talks about like freezing the bananas and, making the ice cream. Remember I was telling you about that guy that time, and, I'm thinking, well, that's a really good idea. Just, you freeze he was like, freeze the banana, you freeze the banana. But the truth is, like, you could put a banana in, chop up a banana, put it in the freezer in a bowl or whatever, and you mush it up. I'm sorry to go on one last thing, but even with the food, like, just to say, like, when they sell like the cereals and stuff, like, when you see that on the commercial, it's not even cereal in milk, like it's in glue. They use glue because the milk will, by the time they take all the pictures, it'll make the cereal mush, and they want everything to sit a certain way in the bowl. So you're looking at like processed cereal in a bowl of glue, and that's like giving you the image of like, oh my God, I want that. And, it's pretty. So if you start looking at it that way and thinking that way, I did a show on this when I first started Operation Status Quo back in March called Buyer Beware, and it has all different little tricks that they use in advertising to get you to want to buy products. So you can go back and check that out on another time. But anyway, Mike, anything else you'd like to say? Add, do, give, provide, insert for the wonderful people of the world here today on Operation Status Quo.
Nope. I would just encourage everyone to take personal responsibility for their health. Start slowly, and if you fail, we all fail. It'll happen. Just get back on the horse. Google information and recipes, and just start slow, and then start surrounding your people who want to change and be positive. And I would limit your time and influence on people who want to, bring you down or have bad habits.
Yep, absolutely. I'm going to give you a little round of applause. Mike Palma of Personalized Wellness Solutions. His contact information is in the description box below. Feel free to reach out. He can help you reach your health and wellness goals, which are more than attainable, even though you think they may not be, but they are. Hey-o. So, Mike, I want to thank you so much for your time here today, and we'll be back probably next week with more great information for the people out there. So thank you so much for all you do and your time here today, and I will be catching up with you soon. Thank you so much.
You got it. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. There he goes. Let me come back over here. There's another round of applause for our good buddy, Mike. He's my good buddy. I don't know if he's your good buddy. He could be. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today on... Ayo. There we go. I got to get my AO out of the way. Thank you so much for being with us here today on Operation Status Quo. Again, here we observe the status quo of life. We learn to flow with the quo of life, and then we just create our own flow of quo because that's the only way to go. Don't let these people out there control you and manipulate you and all that kind of stuff. You have the power inside. We all do. So these are just tidbits of information to just help you see things in a different way and, hopefully move in more positive directions as everything in our world is coming to a new place. So, empower yourself, dive in, and, be your best. All right, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me just say real quickly, if you don't mind, I would appreciate like, subscribe, share. We're only like three away from 500 subscribers. I mean, this week has been pretty good. So, if you feel inclined to do so, hit that subscribe button, like, share, send it out to your friends, your family, those you love, and of course, those you despise as well. God bless each and every one of you. I definitely appreciate your time. More great stuff yet to come here on Operation Status Quo. So have a great day. Until tomorrow, Operation Status Quo, disengaged.